you're tuned in with Intersys. I am Johnny Romero, your host, and I have the pleasure of having with me today Adriana Nesheva. She is a Bulgarian translator and localization expert focusing on the global luxury and fashion and beauty brands. Thank you for being with us today, Adriana.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
So, our theme is more than bilingual. And with that, we're talking to interpreters, translators in our language profession that really have a unique story to tell. So, to start things off, what are the languages you speak, and how did you come about learning them and becoming a proficient?
Well, I think as most of the translators, I have always been passionate about languages, I think since a kid. So I speak, of course, Bulgarian, which is my native language. I speak English and a little bit Spanish, but don't test me. And I studied Arabic very slightly. Unfortunately, I forgot most of the things that I studied. But these are the main languages that I have studied. And German in school, but this is totally no for me.
Okay, yeah. And talking about school, we'll kind of go on those lines. You are from Bulgaria, and you studied throughout all your studies in Bulgaria, or did you do some traveling and study abroad?
No, actually, I did all my studies in Bulgaria. Honestly, when I was a kid, I was fascinated with English. That's how it all started. I know that nowadays it's not a big thing because everyone speaks English, but when I was a kid, it was a different story. It was not that common, not that popular. So
Sure.
actually, at school, like in the low grades, we didn't study any foreign language. So basically, I decided to go for private classes for English. And then I started, I was so passionate that I was so hardworking that 2 years in a row I managed to earn a scholarship, which was covering my classes for the next year. And I was so proud of this. And
As you
after
should.
that, yeah. After that, I went to study in a foreign language school, and my first language was English, second German. But German, unfortunately, I almost have no memories of it.
Wow. I have some friends that speak German as well as Dutch. So it's again, you use it or lose it, right? It's one of those languages you definitely need to practice to keep up with. So then, did you always know after you finished your studies that you were going to go into language access or be a language professional? Is that something that you knew about that you were going to do?
Actually, not really, because during the years I had different aspirations. For example, when I was very young, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to US, no matter what, to go and live there. So I was even planning to travel with this work and travel programs once I go to university. But then, life happens. A lot of things changed. I started internship in a travel agency. Then I started working full time, so I actually never went. But I've always wanted to translate. This was actually because in the beginning it started as a side job, I would say, or as a hobby. Even in university, my first translation, it was 2 books that I got as a project. So I was doing it as a side hustle, and I really enjoyed it. And at that time, there was no Tradus, there was no Captos. It was just me, Microsoft Word typing, and just using the dictionaries that I had available, paper ones or soft copies. But that was it.
Wow. Yeah. So then, that being said, how many years now do you think it's been since you started? How long have you been translating, professionally?
I started my first translation, these 2 books that I translated, it was in 2010. So it's already
Okay.
like 14 years. But it was not all the time non-stop because I told you in the beginning it was part-time job and I was doing other jobs because I studied tourism in university. So I was working in the field of hospitality and hotels for some time. Then I decided that I want to do my thing. I want to be involved with translation, and I really want to focus my time 100% to this.
Okay, excellent. And did you, out of curiosity, because I think when we start in this profession, whether it's interpretation or in your case, translation, sometimes, and even to this day, unfortunately, some have the perception that it's not necessarily a career, that it's only kind of like you said, you got into it as a side hustle. Did you have any, whether it be colleagues, friends, say, is that all that you do, or kind of question that decision at any point? Did you have anyone kind of not really fully understanding that this is actually very much a profession and a necessary one at that?
Actually, I have this all the time, unfortunately. It's, sometimes it's even annoying me because, especially when you say you're a freelance translator and usually, but what do you translate? And which language do you translate? Which is okay question. At some point, you explain everything and the next question is, and what is your job? What do you do? So it feels like no
Right.
one understands and they think that you're just joking and sitting at home and just having coffee and enjoying. But actually,
Right.
I have to admit that if I compare to my full-time job before in hotels, honestly, sometimes I'm even busier and it requires much more dedication, much more time and concentration.
Yeah, well said. No, I agree with you. I think, well, I remember a good friend of mine, he's a good friend, well intentioned, when I talked about, becoming kind of just full time interpreter and making that kind of my career. His comment was something to the effect of, and you can make a living doing that. So it was kind of like this very kind of, um, it's not uncommon for individuals to really not really understand that what's involved, like you said. And I agree with what you said. I almost feel, in a lot of ways, I come from a finance background, and spent over, close to 25 years in that industry. I feel in a lot of ways I am busier doing what I'm doing in language access, because there are so many nuances, and you're always learning and you're studying and doing different things. So I always like to ask that question, and I know I'm not alone. So now that you are in translation, you chose a specialization, or a niche that is unique, and it's luxury, brands and fashion, beauty brands. How did you go into that? I know you commented that you were sort of in that hospitality industry. Did that lead you down that kind of specialization?
A little bit. First of all, fashion and beauty is something that especially every woman would like to be involved in. So it's kind of pleasant. I mean, you're doing your job and also you can enjoy a lot of other benefits and being in the loop with the newest trends and everything else. But for me, like when I was working in hospitality, I was in sales and marketing. So at that point, I was handling corporate accounts. And most of my accounts that I was managing, they were related to beauty. Like I had Dior, I had Swarovski, which is, this luxury feeling. So I was always interested. Also in sales, when you have to meet a client, for example, just the same as in translation, you have to prepare, you have to understand about the company, about their values, about what they do, where they're present, what is their audience. So this is what made me even more interested, and actually I got a lot of insights during this time. And later on, of course, when I started translating, in the beginning I was not, I was kind of translating everything, especially when you work with travel agencies, even though I think it's a very wrong thing to do, because at some point it gives you nothing. You are everywhere.
Yeah.
At some point, I decided that I want to focus on something that I really love, that will bring me joy together with translation. And of course, it's an industry that's it's profitable. You cannot say that you not find clients, because you know that
Sure.
nowadays quite famous.
Absolutely. Now, with interpretation, as well as translation, there's this interesting kind of dynamic now with artificial intelligence, right? AI and the use of it to help, whether it's everywhere now, even with LinkedIn now, they're trying to really promote, all of this, interface, almost invasive in a lot of ways. With translation, uh, how has that worked for you? Have you been able to use some of these as tools? What are your views on the use of it? The correct use of it? because it is a debate, and I guess the fear by some that humans will be replaced, or hate to go to that extreme. But have you found usefulness in different types of AI tools in your profession?
Well, I think that AI can be useful, of course, for some tasks, especially monotonous tasks, some boring things that you don't want to do manually and waste your time, like compiling database or something like this. But in general, this topic is, I think, getting a bit crazy, because now if you open LinkedIn, every second post, I would say every post is about will AI replace humans, what is happening,
Right.
ChatGPT, all of this stuff, which I understand that we are not, it's not the time like 20 years ago when you just had, as I said, Microsoft Word and nothing else accessible. I know that we have to collaborate like humans and machines, obviously, because for some things they can be useful. Like, some people even schedule their LinkedIn posts with the AI tools and all stuff like this, which sometimes it can be helpful, yeah. But I think there should be still some limit, because I personally have tried ChatGPT for getting ideas for posts, and it didn't work well at all. Like, it was the most generic things, like unveiling, unlocking, translation, all these kind of things that
Right.
it didn't give me anything. Maybe, of course, I know it depends how you engineer the prompt and how you set it, but still, I think that humans will never be replaced. I don't believe in this thing that, we have to be worried, we have to find another job fast, let's run, because the world is ending and there is no translation anymore.
I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be any replacement of humans because of so many reasons, right? It goes back to our theme of being more than bilingual. I think thinking of language as just mechanical, or being just a proficient in the language as sufficient qualification to be a translator or interpreter is really a disconnect, right? Because there are so many nuances, such as in your area of luxury brands and beauty brands. There is an importance of being connected to the people, right? And the culture of whether it be luxury brands and beauty brands, or medical, or finance. And you have to be able to articulate that in a way that is up to date, not antiquated, that is easily understood. And it's hard to just make that result through a machine. And so I don't think it's ever going to be an elimination of human involvement. But I did want to get your opinion. I appreciate that, because it is, like you said, a hot topic right now, where there is a sensitivity to that by many language professionals. Now, going into your specialty, what have been some of the projects or different opportunities you've had that you've really been able to, like you said, enjoy what you do, that you'd like to share? Have there been any experiences in particular that stood out that you have really enjoyed participating in?
Well, actually, I like working on marketing texts, especially, slogans and this kind of stuff. Even though sometimes, especially if I'm not in the mood, I can sit and look at one sentence for 3 hours without any ideas. But in general, it's very nice, because this is the way. I mean, if you're translating, for example, user guide or manual, everything is a little bit boring. You have to stick to what they say, because you cannot come up with some translation that has nothing to do with the original text. But when you are translating marketing texts, you can really be creative. And sometimes when I get a good idea, or something that can relate so much to the Bulgarian audience, I feel so proud of myself when I look at the translation, because it kind of gives you this positive vibes. For me, this is the best thing, that you can just enjoy. You can be creative. You have also the freedom a little bit, because like with legal text, for example, or medical text, you don't have this freedom, because it can cost someone's life, or it can be really big.
And you just really helped me kind of go to the next point and transition to something that fits with what you described, where the line is between localization and transcreation. So, how do you balance that in your particular niche, where you have some of those liberties, or you're actually encouraged to have them, or some others are more fit to your audience or your target audience in particular? What do you actually do to make sure that you balance those two?
Well, of course, you have to know the client very well, and in such kind of creative transcreation work, you need client brief because you cannot just come up with some of your own ideas without having any idea about the tone of voice, about the register, about the audience. So, of course, the most important thing is first to get acquainted with the audience, with the tone, as I said, of the client. And another thing that I think is important, even though it can happen that the client themselves don't know what is the limit, but it's important when you send the transcreation. For example, you can send 2-3 versions with back translation, and in this way, the client will know what exactly you are talking about, and if it fits their brand and their image, and they can always give you feedback. Because I remember I was reading in LinkedIn one post that clients were complaining of too much transcreation, that it's
Sure.
be getting distracted and it's not sticking to the main text.
Right. Yeah. Some scope creep, if you will. And so then going to the communication piece, which I think is really important, just to emphasize that. What do you feel is the ideal client, in your opinion? A lot of times there's also been a lot of bad experiences, or unfortunately, translators not having the amount of communication necessary to really provide the best result. What do you feel are some of the best traits of the ideal client, in your opinion, when you're working on a translation project?
Well, for me, one of the main things that you need to have is, of course, respecting this relationship. You should respect their time and availability. Like, for example, I understand that sometimes projects are urgent, but you cannot also expect that someone will be available 24/7 and you text at 2 a.m. on Saturday, on Sunday, anytime. I mean, there is limit for everything. We don't only live to work, we also have our private life.
Absolutely.
So respect is important for me also. When the client is responsive, it's also very important because it's not like I have, for example, a question, I send it and I receive the feedback in 1 week when the deadline is already passed and it's a bit too late. But usually you can, once you see the client, you start communicating, you can very easily recognize the perfect one, the ideal one, because they you can see that they respect you. You can see that they reply to your emails. You can see that if there is something urgent, they will apologize, or they will never interfere and just jump on you from somewhere out of the blue.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, great tips, and also identifiers, right? Because a lot of times I think, uh, obviously, we're all doing what we do to make a living and provide for ourselves, and sometimes there is pressure to accept an assignment that maybe isn't ideal, just because we're trying to just keep ourselves busy. But sometimes it's and I'll let you answer and see your thoughts on this. Sometimes it may be better just to walk away from an opportunity that just isn't the right fit. Have you ever had to do that, where you tried your best, but you can see clearly it's just not going to be a good fit for you? Has any of that ever happened in the past?
I think it has. Well, the problem for me is, when I started translating full time, because especially at that time, I had very few clients, not that stable. So when I had to leave hospitality and rely fully on covering my expenses, everything with this job, I did a mistake that I was working 24/7. I was replying anytime. If you text me at 12 a.m., 12 at night, I will reply. I was taking any job. I was not saying no, even if the deadline is super squeezed and I have to almost clone myself to work on a few jobs at the same time. But with the time, I learned that this is very wrong, and definitely translators and new translators shouldn't do it. Because now it happens a lot that sometimes there is a good opportunity, I cannot take it, or maybe I'm not the best fit because it's not my qualification or it's not my specialization. I just walk away with it, and I'm not thinking, oh, I could have earned good money from this, or I could have taken a new client. Because at the end of the day, there are so many clients, I cannot take all of them. We should just learn to appreciate what we have and take care a little bit of ourselves and our free time as well. Because with freelancers, I have feeling that we are not free at all. It's even worse than full-time job, because actually you think that you're obliged to take everything and every opportunity that you see.
Well said. Yeah, I think the expression is we leave a 9 to 5 to work 24/7, right? That's kind of what ends up happening. But I do appreciate the self-care tips as well. I think that's really hard to do when you are working for yourself, because there is this kind of anxiety, I think, that comes from, will I have enough work? What if I don't accept this assignment? Will there be another opportunity? And I think that is normal. We have those thoughts of, is this sustainable? And so that creates an unnecessary burden sometimes, and makes us really overwork when it's really not necessary. So I think that's a good point. Like you said, there's a lot of good clients out there. To your point, that you don't have to work with all of them, or you can't work with all of them. So knowing your limitations, having some modesty, I think helps you remain balanced, so that we enjoy what we do. At the end of the day, if we're not enjoying it, it becomes just like any other, monotonous task, and it really becomes something we don't want to continue doing. And so I think it's important to maintain that. With self-care and keeping that balance, what do you do in the form of efficiencies to make the next job easier? For example, I know you mentioned when you first started out, with Word documents or spreadsheets and things. How has that paid, dividends, if you will, in having kind of your own database? And how do you keep up with that so that it becomes easier as you have, now 14 plus years in the industry? What type of things can maybe you share that helps, translators that are maybe just starting out, so that the job does end up becoming a little bit easier as time goes on?
Well, of course, I think being organized is very important. Even though I'm not as organized as I wish to have proper folders for all my clients. But when it gets busy, I just forget about this task and everything becomes a mess sometimes. But it's important, yes, being organized.
Nice. So then, I want to respect your time. Looking at, as we have had a great conversation here, a few things that I want to kind of just go back to the more than bilingual theme, culture. What are some things about your culture, from Bulgaria in particular, that are unique, that represent, in your opinion, the culture? And also, what have you done to kind of stay up to date with, obviously, as time goes on, there's always things that are evolving. But anything you'd like to share about your culture, what you identify with, and what you do consider to be your active culture today?
Well, for our culture, actually, we are, in general, when it comes to translation, we are we are people who are quite straightforward, direct, and they don't like, in English sometimes you have too much please, too much being kind and stuff like this. Somehow, my people don't like this,
Okay.
because recently I was working on a localization of a food delivery app. So, all these English phrases like, don't worry, we'll take care of you and stuff like this. Actually, if you say this if a customer service says this to Bulgarian, it might have the opposite effect. They might get irritated because they prefer just to know this will be done, it will not be done. Thank you, and that's it. There is no need to spice it up that much and be super kind, or to put so much emojis or something, because I think people, I don't know, maybe our people are not that patient, but they just like everything to be straightforward and to know from A to
Okay.
Z what will happen.
Nice. That's a good point. That's certainly, I think here, being currently in Portugal and getting to understand the culture here. To your point, the generally speaking, they're very direct. It's not sugar coated, is the other expression right you say in English. It's kind of just straight to the point, and sometimes it could be very shocking. If you're not used to it, kind of like whoa, that was not softened at all. So no, I appreciate that. Good detail there. I appreciate it. Now, you're currently in Dubai. So how did that come about? And what is the culture like in Dubai? Because I imagine it is different than what you're accustomed to in Bulgaria.
Yes, it is different. Well, actually, coming to Dubai was again one of my dreams. My dream was to work as cabin crew in Emirates, like the airline. So I was trying a few times. I was going to these open days, interviews, etc. It never worked. So at some point, I decided, okay, let me try to find a job in hospitality. So that's how I ended up in Dubai. It was almost 8 years ago. And honestly, for me, I know that most people say when you go to a Muslim country, it's shocking. I mean, the culture differences and everything. I can't say it has been that shocking for me, maybe because it's very multinational. Like there are so many nationalities here that you cannot feel that you're in an Arabic country. And everything is pretty much open. I would say as open as in Europe. So you
Okay.
don't feel anything that much, but still it's a different culture, and I learned some good things, and I learned maybe to be more respectful because, as I said, in my country, people are sometimes not that polite. I mean, too direct that it can look like being rude, but actually, when you are in a place like this, you learn definitely how to stay more calm, how to think before you say something, and to respect other cultures. That's the most important thing that I learned here.
Very nice. And how long have you been in Dubai?
Almost 8 years and something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
8 years, I think. But I'm
Is there
planning
any?
to.
Go ahead.
Yes. I'm planning to move to Spain hopefully this year, so we might be
Oh, get
almost
out.
neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. I was just in Madrid on Monday, which obviously is close by, and it was great to be able to just the proximity. I just drove there early morning and came back in the evening, which is just really special. I think when you're here in Europe, everything is relatively close. So yeah, let me know for sure. We'll be in touch, and we'll probably be able to connect in person, which would be even better. Is there any particular time that you would recommend traveling to Dubai? Is there any type of seasonality or anything that is unique certain parts of the year?
I would recommend definitely the period from October, November until March, because this is the
Okay.
winter here, which is like 25, 30 degrees, which is perfect summer for Europe.
All right. Sure.
Because if you come in summer, it's you cannot walk outside. It's like 50 degrees,
Wow.
and it's you have to be with AC all the time, and it's not even to go to the beach. I remember first year I went to the beach in June. In 1 2 hours, I was so red that I couldn't recognize myself.
Wow, wow. Yeah, and just for our US viewers, since we're international, we're talking Celsius. So they're probably like 50 is nothing, like 50 Celsius. Okay, so the conversion is well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Just so for those that are wondering, that's not that. It's Celsius versus Fahrenheit, just to put a little bit of interpretation for those that are in the US watching this program later.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's good to note. I'll make a note of that because I would love at some point to travel. I've seen obviously a lot of videos and pictures, of the architecture and everything in Dubai. So that would be a great experience. So I'll have to make a note of that window because I definitely don't want to be out there and turn into and melt in the sun, which is I'm sure
It is
easy
very
to do.
beautiful, but it's just like the architecture, the buildings, everything is very beautiful, but it's just different from. Yeah, I would say it's different from Europe. That's why sometimes I miss my country because, I miss the mountains, the peace, the greenery, all this.
Yeah.
It's
I can appreciate that. Yeah, here in this part of Europe, whether it's Spain or Portugal, the scenery is just spectacular,
yeah.
and you feel just connected to nature and just the beauty of everything. So yeah, I can definitely understand that completely. Well, as we wrap up here, is there anything that we haven't already addressed that you wanted to share for the viewers? And we'll definitely share with them your contact information, for example, and the best way to communicate with you is that via email, LinkedIn. What is your preference?
Email or LinkedIn, they both work for me. I'm
Okay.
most of the time available, so well.
Yeah, we'll share that for sure. Any last comments or thoughts that you wanted to share that we haven't touched on?
We touch based on almost everything. I would just say that, especially in our career or in any career, the most important thing for me is just to always stay updated, to try to learn new things because sometimes you can think, oh, I have 5, 10 years experience. There is nothing else I can learn, but there is always space for more.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm all about practice makes better. I think, when you think practice makes perfect, then to your point, if I'm, in my opinion, perfect, I'm never going to make any improvements. So I think practice makes better, forces us to continue to find ways to improve, which I think is always the case for all of us. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And as we conclude the conversation, which I think will hopefully follow up later, whether that's with you in Dubai or if you move to Spain, we'll definitely stay connected and have another conversation in the future.
Hi, my name is Adriana, and I'm always tuned in.